Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Isaac and I'm a third-year medical student at Florida State University. And today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my experience with nephrology. So as a third-year medical student, you get to do these flex rotations where you kind of experience these other specialties that are not necessarily considered to be the core rotations, like family medicine, surgery, internal medicine, and things of that nature. And this time around, I got the nephrology rotation, and I spent 4 weeks with a nephrologist here in Pensacola, and it was a very fun time and very educational indeed. And this time I'm going to share with you guys, just for the sake of the video, one really cool case that I remember that happened this week, and also my favorite part of the rotation. All right, so my favorite case actually was earlier this week, a couple days before my last day, and it was a guy that was my age who was coming in with a GFR of 9%. And if you don't know what GFR is, it's the filtration rate, basically telling you how much your kidney's working, and anywhere above 50 or 60 is okay, but the lower you go, it's your kidney is essentially working at 9%. And so why does this 20-some-year-old kid have kidney issues that are essentially working at 9% of its full capacity? It turns out when he was 5 years old, he was found to have urine reflux in one of his kidneys, which resulted in severe hydronephrosis on that side, where water just kind of backed up into that kidney, and essentially that kidney was kaput by the time they figured it out, and he had to get it taken out in order to avoid any sort of infections or complications later on down the line. So essentially at the age of 5 on, he had one kidney that was working just fine, and he lived without one kidney for 2 decades until recently, when he noticed that he was having some flank pain on that side, and that's when he finally got it checked up. And when he went to the emergency department, they saw the same exact story. He had hydronephrosis, and the creatinine was through the roof, and his electrolytes were completely out of whack, and he basically had a similar story. They found that there was some urine going back up on that side as well, and causing a hydronephrosis. But to make things worse, he was also positive for cocaine, so he admitted for cocaine abuse. If you don't know, cocaine is a very strong, potent vasoconstrictor, and anything that constricts the vessels will also constrict the smaller arteries in your kidneys and will damage the kidneys too by restricting blood flow to the kidneys. That's why they say not to abuse NSAIDs, that and peptic ulcers being one of the main complications of ibuprofen and other NSAIDs. So this guy went to the ER, they stabilized him, his creatinine came down, and then now he was referred out to an outpatient kidney specialist, which is when he came to our office and saw us for the first time. And before we go into a patient's room, if you're a medical student, nursing student, whatever it may be, you know that you usually prep yourself mentally and read through the chart and see what the patient's here for, look at their labs if they have any available or any other studies. And when I pulled out his chart and I was looking at his labs that he had done a couple days prior, all bells started ringing in my head. I saw the potassium of 6.5 and I was like, whoa, hey doc, shouldn't we do something about this? Because 6.5 of potassium is very toxic for your heart, and it can cause some very bad arrhythmias that could lead to death very fast. So my first instinct was, oh my God, hey preceptor, we gotta send them to the emergency department so they can give him calcium gluconate, stabilize his heart, give him some insulin, bring that potassium down. But that was the first time I realized that potassium levels and any kind of electrolyte levels is relative to what the patient has in terms of comorbidities. My preceptor was already kind of calm about this, and as he knew that the potassium is going to be that high, because he had already reviewed the chart and knows that this guy's GFR is at 9%. So he knows he must have been on this chronic kidney disease for a long time before he got it checked out. So to him, 6.5 is not a big deal because his baseline is probably around 6. And that's not to say that 6.5 of potassium isn't bad. Of course it is. And that's why he's going to need some dialysis as soon as possible, and we'll get to that in just a second. But anyways, all the electrolytes kind of showed CKD type patterns. So if you don't know what CKD stands for, it's chronic kidney disease, and when you have kidney disease that's chronically there, your kidney is essentially responsible for excreting all of the toxins and electrolytes that accumulate in your body, such as potassium, hydrogen, phosphate, and all that jazz. So if your kidney isn't working as much, then all those things back up in your body, and when you get lab work done, those electrolytes tend to be higher. And because phosphate's higher and calcium's lower, then your PTH is also up, and that's another kind of giveaway that they've had this chronic kidney disease for a while. So anyways, not to digress any further, the preceptor was not too sketched out about this potassium, but we did have to have a very kind of heart-to-heart talk with this patient because essentially we told him, hey, look, you've only had one kidney and you essentially ruined that kidney by doing cocaine and not getting it checked up as you should have, considering you only have one kidney. And so now there's no way around it. His GFR being at 9%, that is the qualifications for ESRD, which stands for end-stage renal disease. And when you hit end-stage renal disease, you're on dialysis for the rest of your life until you get a new kidney. So essentially, we had to tell this guy, hey, you're on dialysis for the rest of your life now because you have no kidneys working at all whatsoever. And so he's gonna get referred out to get a emergent dialysis, where they're gonna kind of put a catheter in through the subclavian vein and be able to temporarily dialyze him through that until he's able to get a fistula placed on his arm, which usually is like about a 4 to 6 month process. But obviously he's not going to survive 4 to 6 months without dialysis, considering his kidneys are only working at 9%. So yeah, that's the kind of the one case that really stuck out with me the most. It really hit home to me, considering this guy is literally my age, and you know, yes, he was dealt this bad hand at an early age of 5 where he had to lose one of his kidneys, but the fact that he didn't really take care of it after on, and he was kind of negligent about his own health, and now he ends up with essentially no kidneys and having to go on dialysis at an early age, like in his mid-20s. It just really hit home and made me realize, you know, we only have one body, one healthy thing that takes us through our life, so let's take care of it. So yeah, that kind of stuck with me, so I thought I would share that with you. All right, so now on to my favorite part of this flex rotation of 4 weeks. So I got to spend a couple days with my preceptor's partner, and they've run this kidney organization together, so they can swap off students and whatnot. So I got to spend a couple days with his partner, who is actually the #1 go-to guy in Pensacola for vascular surgery, so essentially anything that has to do with the kidneys and vessels. What does that entail? Fistulas. Because in order to dialyze a patient, you need a really big vein, usually on the arm, to be able to put 2 needles in, suck blood out, filter it out, and put it back in as clean blood. And you can obviously also do it for other reasons, like if you're volume overloaded, you need to get rid of that volume. So that's another reason for dialysis. So yeah, I got to spend a couple of days with this other nephrologist, and wow, I wasn't the absolute biggest fan of surgery during my surgery rotation, but this was slightly different because it wasn't necessarily in this like main OR room. It was just kind of like a standalone building where they did minor surgeries like fistulas. And I never really grasped how fistulas work until I went through this couple of days with this other nephrologist to really see it and see it be put in and see the fistulograms where they kind of inject the dye in and see the blood flow of where it goes. And it was just very cool to see for me and kind of really visually understand what a fistula is and how it operates. So that was really cool. There were a couple of cases where people came in with like a really edematous right arm because their fistula was on the right arm and the left arm was totally normal. And what that means is that there's an outflow blockage somewhere more proximal or distal from the fistula. And so in order to fix that, you got to go in there and with a catheter and open up that blockage, whether put a stent in or do a balloon angioplasty, where it's kind of like a tube that goes in with a deflated balloon, and then they inflate the balloon, and hence the vessels inflate with it. And then once you kind of deflate the balloon, the vessels hopefully will stay. That's a temporary fix, considering that most patients come back in about 6 months with the same problem later on. But if it keeps recurring, then that's where a stent will be very useful, where it kind of cages in that vessel in that diameter, and it'll stay put, opened up like that. So I got to see one of those stents. It was very cool. I've never been to a cath lab, so I don't know how they do cabbages, or I do know, but I've never seen it done. So it was very cool to see a stent be put in through the arm and kind of be expanded, and then they inject the contrast and you kind of see it, and you literally immediately see the difference between it being like a narrow pathway where the blood is thick, and then all of a sudden it's a narrow path, and then all of a sudden it opens up and now it's like a big tube of good flowing contrast. So yeah, that was very cool to see. Like I said, I've never seen those kinds of procedures be done before. And as a third year, I've only been doing like my core rotations, so I haven't had the chance until now. So that was very cool. Overall, I would say these 4 weeks flew by really fast. I mean, you know what they say, time flies when you're having fun, and I sure did have fun with it. Not only that, but there's something about not having to worry about a shelf exam coming up that lets you enjoy the rotation more and get the most out of it, as opposed to constantly having in the back of your head to think about, oh man, I gotta go home and do questions. Oh man, I gotta finish these Anki cards by the end of the day, otherwise I'm not gonna do well on the shelf exam. So there is definitely some contribution from that aspect for sure. But overall, I wasn't expecting to really learn and get so intrigued by the workings of the kidney as much as I did going through the rotation itself. So yeah, overall, a great time. I'm very appreciative for the preceptor I got for the 4 weeks, because he's just like one of those physicians that you can tell is very enthusiastic about his work, and he loves to teach. So he would pimp me a lot, but like, oh man, am I glad that he did, because it really made me think. And when you think, especially on the spot, it sticks with you. Anyways, yeah, that was my nephrology rotation. If you like this kind of video, please like and subscribe, and drop a comment. Let me know what other videos you'd like to see from my experience as a medical student. All right, thank you guys for watching. Until next time.